Hi, my name is Davina Oriakhi. I'm an independent singer-songwriter, amongst other things, and this is the Life, Love and Affirmations podcast with me, Davina Oriakhi. And I'm so excited to say that this is the first ever episode, and it is titled Set Boundaries, Set Yourself Free. What makes having a podcast even more exciting for me is I used to work in radio. I love working on an audio platform. I love speaking. I love sharing. And I feel like this is just the perfect opportunity to be able to share my experiences and my learnings in a safe environment so that we can all learn, unlearn, grow together. So we're just going to go right into the episode, Set Boundaries, Set Yourself Free. In the first segment, we will be looking at what boundaries are, examples of boundaries, and how you can tell that you have unhealthy boundaries. Towards the tail end of this segment, I will then be looking at more ways that we can become more aware of our unhealthy boundaries. So firstly, what are boundaries? To me, boundaries are the invisible line that guards our mental, physical, sexual, emotional, and material space. And I call it an invisible line because for many of us, I can definitely speak for myself, we don't realize that there is a boundary or should be a boundary until it is crossed and it makes us feel a certain type of way. There's a saying that says good fences make good neighbors. And I believe that that is so true because, I mean, if there is no demarcation, how would you know that you're encroaching on somebody else's space? There's a reason why they call it personal space. If we do not have that space and if we do not demarcate where that space is, the encroachment cripples our freedom, cripples ourselves. My mom would say, know yourself, no because. It's a pigeon idiomatic expression, meaning knowing myself and knowing my limits and knowing my boundaries isn't an insult to somebody else. It is just me protecting myself. Know yourself, no because. So what are some examples of boundaries? Well, an example of someone crossing a boundary for me would be touching me without my permission, touching me without consent, taking out anger on me, humiliating me in front of other people, going through my personal belongings, going through my phone, humiliating me in front of other people. I think I've said that. And so for example, you're out on a night out with your friends and all of a sudden somebody gropes you and just touches you inappropriately out of the blue. That is an invasion of personal space. That is crossing boundaries. For some of us that grew up in Nigeria, maybe went to secondary school in Nigeria, if you would go through the market, there are some men that would grab you and literally ask you to come with them to come and see what they're selling in the market. And you're just like, wait, hold on. Why are you grabbing me? Why are you calling me your wife in the process of this? This is just wrong. Invasion of personal space and boundaries. Most definitely. There are a number of ways that you can tell that you have unhealthy boundaries.
I'm in somebody's house right now.
But before I get into that, I would like to delve into how we can become aware of the fact that we may have unhealthy boundaries. By journaling and by speaking to someone that we can trust, maybe a therapist, a guardian, a counselor, we can then objectively, without condemnation, just express ourselves and certain situations that we find are crippling in our lives and analyze how we deal with those situations. And some questions that I think we should be asking ourselves is, how often do we worry about what other people think? Do we feel guilty for wanting to do things by ourselves? When last did we say no to someone? When last did we say yes to something and secretly didn't want to do it? Do you know the deal breakers in friendships and relationships? What your deal breakers are? Do you know what 10 things you like to do with your time, and can you quickly name them? And do you have 10 things that you hate doing? And do you have strong feelings about these things? And when you think about saying no to someone, do you feel afraid or do you feel calm inside? These are important questions that we should be asking ourselves to become aware of where we stand with our boundaries and where we stand with our ability to pick up our boundary tools, that I like to call them, which is saying yes when we mean yes and saying no when we mean no. So now I'm going to go into how we can tell that we have unhealthy boundaries or no boundaries at all. Number 1, telling all, i.e. giving off too much information, saying so much when it wasn't asked.
Trust it, I know I'm in your business right now.
2, talking at an intimate level on the first meeting. And I feel like that ties in very well with the third and the fourth point, which are falling in love with a new acquaintance and falling in love with anyone who reaches out. Falling in love with a new acquaintance, falling in love with anyone who reaches out, and talking at an intimate level on the first meeting. If you see someone for the first time and without knowing the person, getting to know the person, you're already planning marriage in your head, you're already thinking about how your children would look, sign of unhealthy boundaries. Yes, I am shaking your table. I am coming into your house.
Uh-oh, I'm in somebody's house right now.
Another sign that you may have unhealthy boundaries is acting on first sexual impulse. Not only is that a sign of lack of discipline, but we should ask ourselves, why do I just need to satisfy how I'm feeling straight away just because I'm feeling a certain type of way? So I'm Nigerian, and I feel like I can say that a lot of Nigerian men have that problem. Why should you reach out and be touching somebody and force yourself on somebody just because you feel a certain type of way? Don't you feel like I feel a certain type of ways? I wouldn't come and touch you. So yeah, that's a sign that somebody may have unhealthy boundaries. Another sign, being overwhelmed by a person or being preoccupied. Not noticing when someone else displays aggressive or inappropriate behavior. Taking as much as you can get for the sake of getting. Giving as much as you can for the sake of giving. Allowing someone to take as much as they can from you. Oh my goodness, I suffer from this still. Letting others direct your life. And I feel like a lot of us who are first gen Africans, Asians, or Africans in diaspora, Africans in general, we always feel the need to please our parents. And it comes from a sense of guilt, I believe, that they have done so much for us. So we allow them to direct our life. And that is something that we need to break from. It's a chain. Love your parents, but at the end of the day, they're going to be gone before you. And then you're going to be left with your life and your decisions. So much easier said than done. But that's why we're here. We're going to get through this. Letting others describe your reality. Hey!
Chai!
Jesus. Letting others define you. Believing others can anticipate your needs. This is such an issue, actually. Why would you believe that someone knows what you need without you vocalizing it? I feel like it's an unfair expectation to put on someone else. Expecting others to fill your needs automatically. Falling apart so someone will take care of you. Not noticing when someone invades your boundaries. Accepting food, gifts, touch, sex that you do not want. Touching a person without asking. This is such a turn off for me, and I know that so many women can relate to this. Don't touch me. I don't care if your love language is physical touch. If I don't want you to touch me, don't touch me. Worth mentioning, I think it's hot when a guy asks you, can I hold your hand? Can I hold your waist? Can I kiss you? I don't see it as a turn off. Do you know what I mean? That shows me that you respect me enough to ask for my consent before you touch my body and invade my personal space. Anyway. Self-abuse and self-sabotage. Knowing yourself and knowing who you are and loving yourself and accepting yourself and having a level of self-confidence and self-esteem would keep you from having unhealthy boundaries or no boundaries at all. But when these things are lacking through life experiences and the sort, it is easy to fall into the pit of self-sabotage and self-abuse, which is something I'm still dealing with. Another sign of having unhealthy boundaries is sexual and physical abuse. And the last one I'm going to pick up is food abuse. Gluttony. That is something I'm dealing with because I am a huge comfort eater. So these are the signs that you have unhealthy boundaries or no boundaries at all. I just want to say a few things before I move on to the next segment. Boundaries are relative. What may be a no for you may be okay with me and vice versa. And of course, this comes with knowing yourself, being aware of what makes you comfortable and uncomfortable. And boundaries are also not set in stone. As you learn more about who you are and experience personal lessons in life, you will change, and so will your boundaries as well. So boundaries are relative. Boundaries are not set in stone. Now, the next segment, we're going to be talking about vocalizing your boundaries, how to vocalize your boundaries, what you need to prepare for when you do vocalize your boundaries. And then in the final segment, I will be giving you tailor-made affirmations for self-esteem, self-love, and defining healthy boundaries. So vocalizing your boundaries, I've noticed that, especially with women, we feel a certain way for speaking up. Well, not all women, obviously. But personally, I can say that it has taken me a while to learn how to speak up for myself, vocalize my boundaries, say how I feel. And that is because it comes with a sense of fear that I would be looked upon as difficult, rude, not raised properly, quote and unquote. And it's just doing myself a disservice. And I had to learn the hard way how to vocalize my boundaries and say how I feel without being disrespectful, but being clear. So there are 3 things that you need to know and you need to put into practice when you're vocalizing your boundaries. 1, state the facts. State the action. You need to state the facts by saying, this is what you've done. This is what you have done. Don't say you are this person. Don't call the person toxic. Don't call the person negative. Don't call the person names. Don't label the person, but state what they have done. For example, you are compelling me to do something that I am uncomfortable doing. Or you have told me something that has made me feel this way, which goes into the second point. Declare how you feel. And in this point, we need to learn how to expand our emotional vocabulary. I feel hopeless. I feel frustrated. I feel condemned. I feel uncomfortable. I feel violated. I feel upset. I feel sad. I feel depressed. I feel criticized. I feel judged. Use your words. Declare how you feel. The third thing is state the consequences of the actions. And I want to give an example of that. So a way that you can do this is by saying, if you break plans with me by not showing up or calling me, I will feel disrespected. I will call you on your behaviors and let you know how I feel. Another example, if you continue to repeat this behavior, I will consider all of my options, including leaving the relationship. If you continue to yell at me or call me offensive things, I will leave the room or the house, or I would ask you to leave. Always state the clear consequences. And there are guidelines for setting consequences. Number 1, set forth clearly and unemotionally. It has to be objective. Don't think about, oh, this person is this to me. No, you need to put yourself first in that situation and say, this is what I need to be done for me to feel better. Then also think about the actions that you are willing to take, which may allow for gradual change. And also the last guideline for setting consequences, it may be negotiable rather than rigid lines in the sand. And this depends on how comfortable you are with how far on or how close things can go. Remember, it is not enough to set boundaries. It's necessary to be willing to do whatever it takes to enforce them. And enforcing boundaries means following through consequences. And that is why vocalizing your boundaries, I have added stating the consequences of the action. So let's recap. When vocalizing your boundaries, state the facts, state the actions that have been made on you, towards you, against you. Declare how you feel. State the consequences of the actions. Okay? Truth is, not gonna lie, it's not going to be easy to vocalize your boundaries, but learning to vocalize them clearly without spite. This is why it's important not to call the person names, but instead to state their actions, call them out on what they're doing. Don't say you're a toxic person. Say you are exhibiting toxic behaviors. There's a difference. The second step is accepting that people would either fight you when you declare your boundaries, run from you, or respect you. So they would either fight you, your family would do that to you first, to be honest. They will fight you, run from you, or respect you. And to be able to define these boundaries, you need to be willing to be able to take those on. And to be honest, now with the learning and the growing that I've been doing, I've realized that we should never take it personal when people say no. Setting our boundaries and nurturing ourselves to say no when we need to helps us respect others' decisions to say no. Do you know what I mean? So if you set boundaries for yourself not to be touched without consent, you would respect other people's boundaries by not allowing you touch them without their consent. So in this podcast, we have covered what boundaries are, the examples of boundaries, the signs that we may have unhealthy boundaries or no boundaries at all, how we can become more aware of our unhealthy boundaries, and how to vocalize our boundaries, and lastly, what we need to prepare for when we do vocalize our boundaries. I hope this podcast has added value to you in any way. What I love about these topics is it never is enough for one podcast, is it? It just opens a barrel of worms. If you would like to ask any questions, please do send me a DM on Instagram at Davina Oriakhi, or send me an email at hey@davinaoriakhi.com, or you can tweet at me at Davina Oriakhi using the hashtag #LA with Davina. If you're wondering what the bed for this podcast is, it is an original song, FSLS, by myself, Davina Oriakhi, produced by Gabriel Ryder. And yes, it is available on all streaming platforms. As promised, I will be ending this podcast episode and every other podcast episode with closing affirmations tailored to what we have discussed today in regards to defining healthy boundaries, nurturing self-love and self-esteem to help us to navigate defining healthy boundaries. So what I need you to do is repeat these after me. But before we do that, let's do some breathing. Breathe in. Breathe out. And receive. I am loved. I am worthy. I am enough. I am whole. I am at peace with myself. I am bold. I am beautiful. I am courageous. I am wealthy, healthy, and able to do everything I set my mind to. I take complete responsibility for my own well-being, for everything I think, say, and do. I choose to direct my life in constructive channels. I refrain from negatively criticizing myself. I refrain from accepting the negative judgment of others. I think for myself and act accordingly. I allow myself the freedom to succeed or to fail without guilt or feeling inadequate. I refuse to accept blame, shame, or guilt. I make every effort to achieve and maintain a positive self-concept. I am authentic, true to my own needs, values, and convictions. I prove my worth to myself and myself alone. I accept myself totally and unconditionally. I stand up for my opinions and convictions. I approve of myself. I let go of everything that does not serve me. I am patient, kind, and gentle with myself. I avoid overindulgence. I learn lessons from my mistakes. I never try to impress others with my worth or importance. I love being me. I am worthy and deserving of setting and maintaining boundaries that serve me. Each day, I receive more clarity about the boundaries that serve me best. It is easy for me to vocalize my boundaries to others without feeling any shame or guilt. I honor myself by honoring my boundaries. I am ready to choose helpful boundaries. I give myself permission to set boundaries that support myself, my business, my career, my academics, my relationships, and my life. I easily attract good people who honor and respect my boundaries. I am loved. I am worthy. I am enough. I am whole. I am at peace with myself. I am bold. I am beautiful. I am courageous. I am wealthy, healthy, and able to do everything I set my mind to do. It is easy for me to vocalize my boundaries to others without feeling any shame or guilt. I honor myself by honoring my boundaries. I am ready to choose helpful boundaries. Breathe in and breathe out. And we have come to the end of the first episode of the Life, Love, and Affirmations podcast. It has been a great pleasure being here with you. If you are wondering what the bed for the closing affirmations is, it is an original song by myself. It's called It's All About Love, produced by the Chordinator, and yes, it is available on all streaming platforms. Remember, you can listen back to this episode for the affirmations as often as you need to, because in order for us to break from our patterns and to break from our unhelpful boundaries, we need to give ourselves a new narrative. You are loved. Thank you so much for being here with me.